Thank you, Natalie. All right. Yeah, pleasure to be here. And I think we're starting off with the presentation, Understanding Land Cover Change in a Tropical Region Due to Rapid Agricultural Increase, Interaction with Environmental and Socioeconomic Factors. This was work done by Sofia Oliveira, Andres Figuera, Maggie Song, Manoja Polisetti, Daniela Velasquez, Marianne Shambia, and it was mentored by Oz Kira. So please take it away for the presentation.
Yeah, okay. Hi. Oh, I think I'm a few slides. There we go. Yeah, so we did our project focusing on land cover change in the region of Mato Grosso in Brazil. And that's our team here. So we know that land use and land cover change, including land management, is considered a driver of climate change in both a regional and global level due to its capacity to alter climate by disrupting natural cycles of carbon, water, and energy. So we focused on the region of Mato Grosso as a case study of an area which has undergone significant land use and land cover change. We wanted to see what the socioeconomic factors were behind this change and how this change has impacted net primary productivity, land surface temperature, and albedo. So Mato Grosso is a particular area of interest because it has a significant portion of the Amazonian tropical rainforest covering it. And in the past few decades, it has undergone significant agricultural expansion and land cover change and has lost quite a bit of its forest area. So we looked into, and it has these three biomes, three major biomes. As you can see, it's the forest, savanna, and wetland biomes. So there is quite a bit of diversity in that. I think, yeah. So these are the variables or the environmental factors that we investigated, looked at land cover, NPP, albedo, land surface temperature, and so we divided our methods into sort of two sections. We looked at the socioeconomic data and what agricultural products were exported and the sort of the relationship between that and or tried to draw a relationship between that and how the land cover has changed, how the NPP has changed, and albedo and land surface temperature. Andreas, do you want to talk about the methods and the results?
Well, about the result, no, sorry, about the methods, we generate two kind of data sets. One is environmental data and socioeconomic data. The data set related to environmental data was related all with MODIS data sets. We generate maps using MODIS land cover. Also, the NPP, Terra Net Primary Production, that is a product of MODIS, and also albedo daily, and land surface temperature. All of this data set of MODIS was in a spatial resolution of 500 meters. About socioeconomic data, we generate these data sets using national data of Brazil. We, for example, about population and gross domestic products, we use the data set of Brazil Institute of Geography and Statistics. And for annual soy production, we generate this using the Brazilian National Supply Company of Cuba. About analysis, first we generate land cover change. This doing analysis using spatial maps and Sankey plots analysis. Then we generate time series of environmental and socioeconomic variables. And finally, we generate some correlation analysis between the land cover change of environmental data and socioeconomic variables. Can you, the next please, next slide. About the results, well, this is the first result that we generate. First, we can see the maps and the Sankey plot. This figure one is Sankey plot of land cover change in percents of forest, grassland, wetland, cropland, and shrubland, and savanna in Mato Grosso from 2001 to 2021. And this was self-generated. For these results, we first did a land cover change analysis temporally and spatially. First, we classified the land cover using the land cover classes of MODIS, have like 17 land covers bands. And then we use maps using Python. We calculate the area of every land cover change for 2001 and 2021. We did a special focus in cropland and forest and get some interesting analysis. Then finally, we generate the Sankey plot, no? About the results, we generate some insights. For example, in forest, the forest reduced roughly 8% of all of wall area of Mato Grosso between these 20 years. Also for cropland, increased roughly the double of the land cover of cropland. About the grassland, increased 7% of all wall area of Mato Grosso. Related to wetland was reduced to almost the 50% of wetland cover. And every analysis we can see in this Sankey plot. Next, please. Well, about these results, this is the next phase, the time series of environmental and socioeconomic variables and correlation analysis. For this time series of environmental and socioeconomic variables, we did a scaling of normalization. We normalized all the variables. In this case, we normalized all the socioeconomic variables and the environmental variables. And and then we calculate the correlation analysis of land cover change. And we get some insights between the GDP that we generate good correlations with all the data sets. A positive correlation related to forests, we get inverse correlation with all the variables. In the case of NPP also, if you ask about how we calculate this data set of NPP, LCT, albedo, we did a mean of all the map of Mato Grosso. So we generate time series in Puntual. Then please, can you next? Well, about the discussion about the agricultural expansion impact, 8% reduction in forest areas and 6% increase in soy planted area and grassland between 2001 and 2021. Also, agricultural expansion is the primary driver of land cover change in the region. And this is related to soja. We did a research about the we get some analysis about agricultural expansion, and we get soja is one of the most agricultural in more depredated. Also, negative association between forested area and environmental socioeconomic variables. We get negative correlations between forested areas and environmental variables, and these socioeconomic variables, and a direct link between economic development and deforestation in Mato Grosso. Finally, there are a significant role in agricultural expansion in regional economic growth. We get strong correlation between soy planted area and GDP population, highlighting the importance of agricultural expansion in economic development. Next, please.
Yeah. So I think rather than doing a conclusion, I think our project raised more questions about like what future further research in this area could be, because there were certainly quite a few gaps. We didn't look at we didn't look at the evapotranspiration data, which while we did look at land surface temperature and albedo, I think including evapotranspiration as a variable would be useful with further research looking at the sensible and latent heat fluxes and the changes in that in this area, and looking at rainfall and how hydrology has been affected by this change in land cover and land use, since we know that the Amazon has its own sort of climate that it regulates as a tropical rainforest. Our data was averaged over an annual basis. I think this was due to the fact that sorry, I forgot which data set, but one of them was only available on an annual basis. So to look at the impacts on a seasonal basis would have been interesting, especially for NPP. And then sort of a little bit outside of this scope would be like long-term biodiversity impacts, impacts on soil health and ecological health, which would have, like with soil health, would be relevant to the for agriculture there. But yeah, that's, I think, all we have. That's our bibliography. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the audience? Can I unmute people? I have some questions, but
I have some questions too.
how about you go? Yeah.
Let's hear if there's anyone else first.
People just raise their hand if they have a question. Otherwise,
I can see. Should I go first, Julius?
sure.
Yeah, thank you. That was great. Very interesting topic. I'm just wondering, overall, did any of your results surprise you in any way? Did you find something that you did not expect?
Yeah, I can take this one. I know for our review, we found that which one is it?
You can show the slide if that makes it easier.
Yes, the results. So one of the comments we got from like the reviewers for our micro publication was that NPP increased despite an increase in cropland. So I'm sort of the one tackling that comment in the review, but yeah, I am still kind of trying to find literature on why that might be. But yeah, despite a reduction in forest, there is an increase in NPP for this area.
Yeah, I think I have actually a question on the same plot here. I was wondering, so I was focusing on the GDP versus for sort of increasing GDP versus decreasing forest. Do you think that sort of towards the later half of this time series, those two variables become a little bit more decoupled? Is there maybe a positive a story to be investigated here, or is that maybe a false interpretation? It seems like at the beginning the forest is declining very rapidly, whereas the GDP is sort of more or less steadily rising, but then particularly at the end the GDP seems to accelerate and the forest decline is decreasing. I was just wondering if you have an idea what could cause that. Oh, I think you're still muted.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's also I know we had some trouble with finding data on, like our GDP, I believe, was based off of the exported like I think it's like soy. I know we use soy export data, but I know that data from this region was also hard to find. So I'm not sure if that could have impacted our results here, but yeah, I'm not too sure. Like, I know the region is also exports like corn, I think it was, or cotton. Like there are other agricultural exports that maybe like I don't think we might have used that data. But oh yeah.
Thank you.
There is a hand there.
Ali?
Now that Julius pointed it out, it does seem as if after 2016 there was much less deforestation than before that. Do you know if there have been any policy changes or any reforestation efforts?
From what I've read, they have tried to implement policies that not necessarily outlaw deforestation, but to discourage, I guess, deforestation. I don't remember when those policies came into effect, but I think they were pretty recent. But I know it is still an ongoing issue.
I have a follow-up actually from Julius, or you mentioned that, you weren't sure about if you had access to all the data. And I actually wrote this down while you guys were giving your presentations. If you had any challenges accessing data and if that was, difficult in this project.
Yeah, I think I wasn't we had a couple of our other team members work on that. I unfortunately wasn't one of them, but I know that there was issues with access from Manojna, who was the one working with the socioeconomic data. There were some sites, Brazilian sites, that she wasn't able to access, and then I think, yeah, there were areas of data that we were missing with exports that so we weren't able to get a full picture of the export data.
Okay. Thank you. I think, I mean, I have more questions, but I think we're running a bit over time now, so maybe we should move on to the next group, or?